Hi everyone! Thinking about moving to Berlin? Wondering what it's like to start and grow a business here? Today, in my interview, I will talk about what it's like to move to Berlin as an entrepreneur and start a business here, especially in a digital marketing. And for this topic, I have a special guest. His name is Tobias Braam. He's a Dutch expat who moved to Berlin in 2022, and he's a founder of Swell Growth Marketing. And he's a particularly interesting to me, not just because he works in the same field as I do, digital marketing, but also because of his special personal mission. He helps Ukraine, a country where I am from. He has traveled to Kyiv and Kharkiv on a humanitarian mission where things could be quite dangerous. So today we are going to get to know Tobias better, his business experience and also his important work for Ukraine. And for those who are the new on my YouTube channel, my name is Hanna. I am from Ukraine. I am a founder of online strategy digital marketing agency, and I am a creator of BerlinBiz YouTube channel, where I explore entrepreneurship, business opportunities, and expat life in Germany, in Berlin. And today we are going to speak about digital marketing, and also we will speak about Ukraine. Let's get started. Tobias, welcome to Berlin Biz. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us today. How are you feeling? How is your day going so far?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's nice. It's a bit gray and dark. And there are a lot of fun things to do for work. So I think I have good energy today.
Before we will dive into the topic of marketing in Ukraine, let's talk a bit about Berlin. Tell your story. How did you end up in Berlin?
Yeah. So I moved here for work. So I'm a growth marketer. I worked at eBay before in Amsterdam. I'm a Dutch national. And when I was 37, I got a job offer here. I already wanted to go abroad for quite some time, but I had a relationship, and in that relationship, we did not want that. So when I had the opportunity, when we broke up later, I got a job offer here, and I accepted it, and that's why I came to Berlin.
Yeah, super. What do you like the most about the city?
I think it's diverse. So you hear about people going clubbing and doing it every day and drinking beer. And that's totally true for for Berlin. But there's also the side where it's green, where there are musea, where there's culture, where you don't have to do anything for weeks and you can sit in the park with a nice book. So it offers a lot for different people.
What, in your opinion, what makes Berlin different from other cities?
So in Europe, it's bigger, right? It's one of the biggest cities in Europe. It has a good economy, so there are a lot of business opportunities, and I think it's really open. So it's open and it has high quality of life. So you can go to Temple of the Veld and drink beers there, and then you meet other people, and your day totally goes different than you expected. So there are a lot of interesting people, and it's relatively easy to connect to new people.
Okay, and what are your plans? Are you going to stay here or maybe you move?
Yeah, it's open-ended for me, so I like living here at the moment. I'm building my company. I have friends here. I still don't have a good place. That needs some work. But in general, I want to stay here. There's also a part of me which is interested in other cities that will always be there. And I think in the end, I would like to go back to Amsterdam. But if that's in 5 years or 20, I don't know.
Okay, thank you for your opinion about Berlin, and let's talk a bit more about digital marketing and also about Ukraine.
Yeah, nice.
Tell us about your business. Tell us about Swell Growth Marketing. What do you do? What kind of clients do you have?
Sure. So I'm the founder of Swell Growth Marketing. We've been doing this for about 3 years now, based in Berlin, to which I hope we will speak about. So we do growth marketing. In essence, that's 3 things. So the first one would be to combine marketing with business. As a business, you want to make money, but how does that look like? What then can you pay for somebody to become a client? What is the value of a client? And all these sort of business logics has implications for marketing. This sounds very simple, but in my mind, in all the clients I have, we can improve there to know better what we can pay for our clients or get the distribution between either getting more clients or keeping them better. So that's the first thing. Then we do conversion optimization. So people have a website, and on that website you have an offer. And here typically there are a lot of gains to be made in telling what you do, differentiating between different audiences, and getting people to buy more from you. And the last thing is a part what people know of marketing, right? So that's traditional advertising. So we advertise on Google, on Meta, TikTok, and also sometimes overlooked other channels like SEO or email or referral or other ways to basically get clients to think about you again. So those three things are how we perceive growth marketing and how we grow clients basically.
And we spoke with you before. You came to Berlin in the same year as I am, so 2022.
Yeah.
And you started your business here.
Yeah.
And tell about this journey. Why did you decide to move to Berlin? And did you have agency before, or you started your own business here? Yeah, tell us the story.
Yeah, sure. So I'm 40 years old. I moved 3 years ago, indeed. A few months later than you, so in June of that year. I was working before at eBay as a growth lead. So I had multiple...
In Netherlands or?
In the Netherlands, indeed, yeah. And I had multiple teams with which I worked to basically get more clients in classifieds websites. So eBay has their auction websites, but then also classifieds websites, which here, for instance, would be Kleinanzeigen, or in the Netherlands it's called Marktplaats. And they want to get more people to go to their website and then to log in and to start buying and selling secondhand or new items, basically. So that was what I was doing beforehand. And actually, I wanted to go abroad. I've been living in the Netherlands until then. I wanted to go abroad already for a long time. I had a relationship at that time, and we basically chose together like, hey, we don't want this, or together we don't want this, so we'll stay in Amsterdam. In 2020, that relationship ended. So I had all my hands free to pursue one of my long-term dreams to go abroad. But then COVID happened. So I had to, I couldn't move, or I guess you could, but it must be much harder if you didn't have to stay indoor all the time and cannot discover a new city. So it took me a few years, and in 2022, I got a job offer here in Berlin from Amazon to be growth director, and therefore I moved to Berlin basically.
What were your biggest cultural or bureaucratic challenges when you moved to Berlin? Was it difficult for you, or was it okay?
So I'm from the Netherlands, so it's a similar culture, I would say. There are some very marked differences, I think, and that's surprising to me, because people sort of feel and look a bit the same as Dutch people. In the end, I would say it's very easy, but it depends, in my mind, a lot on what you do basically as a person. Do you try out new things and do you put yourself out there, or are you going to sit inside and say like, hey, I have this really strange letter or fax from some kind of behörde, and I don't know what to do with it basically. So it depends on yourself. In my mind, how easy it is for you. From the Netherlands to Germany is relatively easy, I would say. Amsterdam is less than 1 million. Berlin is 4 times bigger. So for me, that was a big difference. So it takes longer to get somewhere. There are more distinct neighborhoods with their own stories and things you can do there, which for me is really interesting. It's less gentrified, I would say, than Amsterdam. So it's coming, right? And the prices are increasing, but people are less homogeneous than what I find to be in Amsterdam. So if you have to pay at least 2,000 euros to have a small apartment, then it attracts certain people. And for instance, here there are artists, or there are people who have, they work as a serving job, but they pursue their own passion, or they take 2 years to create, I don't know, a product, and in the meantime they do some kind of job. Or they don't have a job at all, and you meet them at Temple of Affairs and you have a drink with them. So you meet different types of people, also more, I would say, from the east of Europe. Or
In which region do you live in Berlin?
now I live in Kotvytska.
Kreuzberg.
Yeah.
Oh, you live the same region as I am.
Yeah.
So not far away from this place.
No, it's close, but most of my time I lived in Schöneberg, so in the west.
Also very, very beautiful city region.
Yeah.
So you're happy with your decision, yeah?
Uh,
Could you say that you're happy with your decision moving to Berlin?
oh, very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love Berlin, I think. So it's wild, and it's fun, and it's nice, and it's super diverse food. For me, is I think the main standout. So people have this idea of you go clubbing every week or multiple times per week even. There's everywhere graffiti, you sit in the park, you drink cheap beers from the spatty from the night shop. And that can be true. And for me, sometimes that is true. But there are also people I meet and things which I do, which is in the weekends I'm gonna walk in one of the nice forests we have around here. Amsterdam is much less green than Berlin, which was something which I did not expect.
So for you in Berlin, you not only changed your the city and country, you also changed the way of how you work. So you was employee, like you had quite safe job, and then you decided to start your own business, right?
Yeah, correct.
Was it difficult for you? Tell about your journey in this direction.
The job did not give me what I want at Amazon. So I wanted to focus on innovation and growing people. And Amazon, and that's not a judgment on them per se, but they're amazingly good in execution. So things get decided, and then the whole company gets behind it and does it. And to do that, they use a reporting structure, which is really strict. And they focus on like all kind of check-ins and structural, basically mechanisms to make teams go like, okay, ideation mode, now you're gonna execute. And it's different than my core strengths, I think. So as leader of teams, there should be, so you should be able to structure things. And I think I can, but if you would ask me like, hey, what are the main things which I like to do? It's not to make structures, to keep Excels, to report every day on what I'm doing, basically.
So when you decided to work yourself?
So that was after that. So that didn't work out. And I was like, hey, what am I going to do? I had sort of this, can I run my own company? Should I do that? Should I work for somebody else again? I liked working at big companies, but also it has a toll, right? I told you about the politics and the things. So I was doubting about that, right? What shall I do next? And I thought like, either I'm going to work for a smaller company where I make more impact, or I might start for myself. And the thing which I did was something which I actually believe in, is you have to put yourself out there and then be flexible. So it can be that there's a growing economy, everybody wants to give you money, it might be easier and you will find out, right? But if you only think about this, and I see people starting a business and they will make a business plan, they will focus on creating business cards, print them and do all this inside thinking. And it's good to do some inside thinking, but also you have to expose yourself to people. You have to talk to things about people and then see if it works, basically. So the thing which I did was I posted on LinkedIn like, hey, I'm looking for new opportunities. And the thing which then happened was in that same day, I got 2 clients. I think there are a few sort of lessons, at least for me in there. So one I already told you is you have to put yourself out there. If you're sitting in your room and thinking of things, making business plans of 6 months, in my mind, you're less effective. So you have to put yourself out there and speak to people. The other thing is the power of the warm network. The people who came to me, they said like, oh, finally you're free. I already did some like things in the evening, or sometimes I help people, or I said like, I don't want money for this. I just talk with you about your problem, which I like to do. And then if there's enough value, then people can pay you for it.
Did you register your company in Germany or you have your company in Netherlands?
It's a German-based company. So I had these two clients, but I didn't have any structure. I didn't have business
You
accounts.
have these two clients.
No, they stopped. Or actually, yeah. So one now does heavy B2B marketing, and I think you have to know your strengths. If with like these lead funnels, with content, with lead magnets. For a part, it's fun if it's a huge audience. But if people say like, hey, I'm going to target 5 or 10,000 people in a country, then you should do more sales or like heavy B2B marketing. And then that's not what I specialize in.
Did you face some bureaucratic challenges when you register your business, or it's easy for you?
Yeah, so one thing which I believe in is you have to just start and then see what you face. And it's for better and for worse. The good things about this is that you will get a lot of feedback. And I think there are some fun things about how I pivoted my business model to be more effective. And you can only do that if you put yourself out there and if you get data and if you speak to people. There are also some bad things with just like jumping in, which is what I did. And the bad things are, for instance, one thing which I would advise everybody, if you can, you would want to make that transition soft. You can conceptualize whether you're a good entrepreneur or not, but there are many easy ways to find out or to take a first step and to see if it works, right? It's super fun, but it's also super hard to be an entrepreneur. It's very different from going to your comfortable desk in a well-paid job where there are a lot of structures. As an entrepreneur, you'll be amazingly proud if you get a new client or if you make something actually work for that client. But also they might stop because they go bankrupt or because all kind of other reasons or because you make mistakes. So entrepreneurship is a roller coaster, a fun one for me. Bad things and therefore I would always advise people to transition into this. If you have a 5-day job, could you work 4 days? Could you do something in the weekend? One thing which I totally missed out on in Germany, as I'm a German company, there's Gründungszuschuss.
What?
So there is, the German government has, I think, only one general rule. If you want to start your company, the government can help you by paying you, I think, up to 70% of your salary. But for that to work, you have to first go to the right behörde and say like, hey, I would like to start a company. This is my plan. Do you agree? If you agree, then they will help you with a basic income.
Did you do that or?
I did, but after founding my company and after having some clients. So they said like, yeah, you already started. We didn't approve your business
It's like
plan.
Arbeitsagentur or job center helped.
I think it's from the job center, but I'm not sure because it's 3 years ago. And the crucial thing for them was, did you already register your company in Elster? And I did a day before. And I said, okay, then it's not available for you.
Okay.
So I think one thing which I would advise people is to look into both like making a smooth transition, because it's always going to be a rocky road. So if you make it easier for yourself, it's better. And look into the sort of the things which a state offers or which people offer you to make the transition easier.
And what were the biggest challenges for you in entrepreneurship?
So I think finding product market fit is the biggest one, or was the biggest one. So I told you how I started as an entrepreneur. So I put a message out on LinkedIn and then I got clients. So I thought, oh, that's relatively easy. I just have to work really hard, make those clients happy, and then think of a business model, charge them money, and then I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think that the biggest
So-
challenge is always for us to attract the new clients. Yes.
So I would say now less so. If you have a good product market fit, then it's easier to attract them.
What do you actually do? So do you need the new clients now, or you have enough projects, or you are interested to attract the new clients? What do you?
So I think every entrepreneur ever will always say they would want to have new clients.
Okay.
Uh,
Do you work on it?
I do, yeah.
LinkedIn posts or events or networking?
I do all these things. I think it's really interesting because that was one of my bigger lessons. So I had this warm network and I had these clients, but I learned two things. One is my business model is wrong, and the second thing is a warm network is not everything. So after that time, because I have a good network, I posted something on LinkedIn and I have new clients. So I had this sort of rule in my head, like, if I need a new client, I will post it on LinkedIn and I will have a new client, which worked for me for the first half year. And my business model then was more project based. So less on monthly fees, but more, I'm going to work really hard for you. We're going to totally optimize your website and then it's done. And the thing which I found out after half year was, I still have these clients, but they pay low monthly retainers. I also built a agency. I have a distributed model, so I work with freelancers. But to get good freelancers, it helps if you say, I'm going to hire you for 20 hours. So to give them certainty. I had all kind of nice fancy tools we can speak about. So I had a high cost base. And then all of a sudden my income dropped. So my business model was wrong. I was totally relying on my warm network and I had a high cost base. So I was in trouble there. So I thought like, okay, I need to pivot now, right? I need to find new clients. So what did I do? And I would advise everybody to at least try that. I went to LinkedIn or I posted on LinkedIn. I went to meetups. And in Berlin, there's an amazing startup community. And there's a big advantage of startups is that if you speak to a founder, and this is all pre-seed startups, so a individual wanting to launch their idea, needing marketing help to get clients to their idea or to validate their idea, it was really easy to get all kind of new clients from there. But I found out for both my business model and who I am as an entrepreneur, this is not the best product market fit for me.
Why?
Because if you're a private individual, you typically won't spend 5 or 10,000 euros on marketing help. You would want to spend 1 or maybe 2,000 euros to validate your idea. And then you either go into an incubator or you get a new job. So startups who are individuals, like a hobby project, is much more fickle than a enterprise who says like, this is the way I'm going in.
How are you going to scale your business?
It's a really interesting question for many reasons. So the clients I have are either from my network, because I'm busy for a few years now and I have a background in this field. I got referrals. So for instance, I work for True Classic, which is one of the biggest D2C brands in the world. They grow from nothing without funding in 4 years to about 300 million euros. So they are a really attractive client to work for. And I get, let's say each month, at least I get a referral of somebody saying like, hey, I work with this guy and I liked it. Or this agency got results for me. You should talk to them. So that's one way of getting clients. You have to get out there. So I spoke about meetups. I organize a few meetups. I don't expect to get clients out of it, and it's not personally my goal, but it does happen sometimes. And then I do posts on LinkedIn. I think I'm doing well. And the last thing which is interesting in that is it has to do with what your expectations are, your cost base, right? If you hire people or if you have a lot of fancy tools, you have to have a higher amount of clients always, basically, to be able to survive as agency. And I can move up and down in that thing. So that's something which I would advise any agency owner to look at, like, hey, what would be my runway and which money would I need to survive and to be happy with? And then if things improve from there on out, you can think like, okay, now I can improve quality by, I don't know, having a new AI assistant or by hiring somebody. So I think you should be flexible in your setup. I'm satisfied with that, but of course I would want to grow further. To tie that to this answer, one of my mentors he asked me like, yeah, what do you want as an entrepreneur? And I said, okay, I want to grow Swell Growth Marketing. I want to have more clients. I want to do more complex solutions. I want to make more impact. And he said, no, what do you want to do for yourself? So he was pushing me on like, okay, I don't really care about the output for your clients, but what do you want for yourself as an entrepreneur?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And if you have, so you can want different things. And I didn't, according to him, didn't give a good answer to it because he said, hey, the thing you don't have is an ego as an entrepreneur. You don't want to become the biggest agency, growth marketing agency of Germany. You don't want to make 5 million euros, or actually I do, but it's not the big goal which I plaster on the wall. I don't, or I would like, but it's not the most important thing for me to say like, this is the way growth marketing is being done. I think I'm successful in it and I'm helping clients with it. But if somebody chooses PR or something else and it helps them, fine with me, right? So he said to me like, hey, you don't have an ego as entrepreneur. And I found that really interesting and I thought about this a lot.
We working together, and you and me, we work with the digital tools, and there are some new trends and AI tools. Let's speak a bit about this topic because it's also interesting. What do you think first? What do you think about trends, new trends in the marketing?
If I make this specific for growth marketing, one trend which I really like is because, so and this is specifically for performance marketing. So people try to put pixels everywhere, measure everything, import all kind of data source, and then get a really complete image of a prospect or a client, and then follow that person and market to them. So they would focus on getting the most information and on this sort of data approach to either sell you something or keep you as clients. But that's getting harder because of privacy. And it has the fun effect that now creative becomes more important. Or in other words, the story you tell becomes much more important. Because you have to be telling this to a broader audience because you don't know anymore like, oh, this person bought a car a few years ago and he wants to sell it 3 years later. And these are the touch points I have. The person is more vague or it's a segment or a bigger group for you. So your stories are broader, so they have to be more interesting. So I love this movement towards better storytelling. And then also I see a lot of brands discovering that if you make content or if you tell a story either on YouTube or in banners or whatever, people tend to overproduce. They tend to say like, this is my brand guidelines and these are the 20 things it needs to look like. People cannot do that, so we have to do this ourselves and to have like really high quality, consistent content. And what we see in conversion advertising, so to get money and to sell direct products, but also in many mid-funnel or upper funnel advertising. So I want to tell you about my brand, or I want to talk about some kind of need somebody has, or I want to tie those things together. I also see that content which is produced by real people focuses on real stories instead of, I'm thinking this is my brand, these are the guidelines. I'm going to send an overproduced video into the world. We see that the other type of content, so people call it UGC and other things, that's working. And as a brand, you have to have more and you have to be faster in creating different, basically pieces of content, either videos or podcasts or whatever, and see which one works. So here growth comes together with better storytelling, and that's something which I really like.
Okay, and what do you think about AI tools for marketing, for digital marketing? Do you use something? Yeah, so tell about this.
Yeah. So if I go to the three sort of things on which we operate, so we combine business with marketing, we try to have people buy more, so increase conversion on the websites, and we do advertising. In the advertising space, it's super obvious, of course, that there are baked in tools like Gemini and Google Ads. There's Advantage, so there are all kind of tools baked in the advertising platform. So if you spend money, then you will get less control over this. I think so. What I see people doing is either two things to simplify it, which I don't think are good. This is a tool. Google says so. So we should indeed target broad, everything broad. Google makes this recommendation, I will click yes, because Google thinks it and it is AI. So people sometimes use AI as I don't have to think or I don't have to take a decision. On the other side, you have people who say like, yeah, it's Google, so I'm not gonna trust it. I'm gonna like write a script or something to basically block all these things and do everything manual. And of course, I see the truth is somewhere in the middle. And one thing which helps me specifically with AI in advertising is to try to think how that works. So if you do a very simple example, you have an ad in Google, and the ad gets 1 to 12 headlines. So it has, let's say, 8 or 9 different pieces of information. One piece of information it's going to validate is the headline for the first thing you see. And for that, you give 12 inputs. If so, then AI needs money to find out, I'm going to show this person input 1, input 2, input 3. And then also I have headlines, but I can combine them with an image or with other things. So there are like a lot of possibilities, right? And that's fine if you have a company which spends $500,000 or $1 million on advertising in a month. So then it has a lot of power to validate, hey, this might work. But for instance, for smaller companies, I see that, okay, if you give it less choice, or if you know from, for instance, customer research, this works, or from other data sources, this type of information works. And I'm only going to give Google 3 choices, which is the minimum. It doesn't have to pay that learning money to optimize the AI. So what I would do with AI in advertising is it's getting better and you will get less control. But in my mind, that doesn't mean that you can just click on everything and say, AI does it.
Let's speak about Ukraine. And I saw your LinkedIn post and you wrote about your humanitarian mission in Ukraine. So tell us about this topic. What inspired you to get involved?
So I think it's my own wish to contribute in a way which I think is good, which I always had, but you're looking for ways to do that. And in my mind, I see typically 2 reasons why people don't contribute, why they think like, okay, I'm making money for myself, I'm focusing on my family, and there's nothing wrong with it. But if you want something else, how do you then do it? And in my mind, either people make things really big, like I have to stop the war there, or what can I do in a country which is at war? Or they think like, yeah, I would like to do something nice, but I can do it later. And so there's this thing which is known in the humanitarian world, which is called learn, earn, return. So you have to first learn from other people, as I tried to do which I did at eBay. Then you earn money. And then maybe when you're 60 or whenever, you can give some money to a charity, or then you can do something. And I don't believe in it, because if you break down like, hey, I'm doing small things, you're already helping and changing. And I didn't change the world in Ukraine by far. And I only did a small thing. I only went there for 10 days. But for me, so I worked with, I try to work for a few hours per week for charities for free. I'm doing it for 2. And one is called Dutch Civilian Action. And I got into contact via my network. And they said like, hey, can you take a look at our websites? And I did. And then they said like, this is nice, good quality. Would you want to advise us on improving our reach via Instagram? So I've been working with them for about a year on basically transforming the stories, or telling the stories which happened there, which are emotional and heartbreaking and about the work they do, to people who are here I always tell them like, you have to compete with somebody on the toilet watching Instagram for a minute. So they experience the full reality of Ukraine there. And as a marketer, we need to turn that into a story which you, in a totally different context, find interesting and engaging, which is true, and which then also brings you to that other world, basically. So that was what I was doing with them. And so the thing they do is they focus on bringing immediate goods, like both relief goods like food and other things, but also heaters and more long-term help to people. And then they also focus on enabling what they call local heroes. So those are people who help other people. So somebody who runs and set up a widow center, or somebody who looks out for vulnerable people in a community and brings them food and talks to them, or somebody who builds shelters for people who flee from the war or are at the front and then they flee. And as you can imagine, of course, the government cannot control these big streams of people. And so that's the core thing they do. So they deliver goods and they go to Ukraine every 6 weeks. But then they also build personal connections with people in the community to actually make it help effective. So you can just give boxes to people and then say bye or just send them. But one of the reasons why I got involved is because they go much beyond that. They realize, and I've experienced as well, that if you speak to people, you can give better help. If you understand what people are going through, you can see like, hey, the help which you're going to give is always limited, and I was only there 10 days. But in that help, you have to focus on people. And we focus on community leaders who then help other people, so the help becomes more powerful. And they asked like, okay, we're going on a new mission. We have another, so they go with 2 trucks and then a cute little van. And they asked, hey, would you like to join? We're driving past Berlin from Amsterdam. And I said, yeah, why not? I would like to see. I can make smart comments about Instagram, but I can also try to be of help there. So that was my reason for joining them on that mission.
And last year you was in Ukraine, you was in Kharkiv and Kyiv, and could you share with us your personal experience and impressions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So Dutch Civilian Action typically provides help close to the front line because they are more able to. They are a small, nimble organization. They work with local people. And you can imagine if you're like a really big organization, the first thing you have to do is build structure. So you're going to go to Kiev, you're going to hire offices or rent offices, and you're going to set up structures. And then you might say, hey, I'm not going to the front line because my insurance, it doesn't cover it. So our company policy doesn't allow this. So, but what that means in reality is that the people who need help most don't get it. So that's what Dutch Civilian Action does, and that's why we also we didn't go to the front line, but to about 15 or 20 kilometers behind that.
So you was quite close to the front line.
Yeah, so it's close to the front.
What was your feelings? What was your impressions?
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, and I think that's the danger of also the work I do, if you make things abstract, there's less emotion. So to quote, I think it was Stalin who said, the death of one person is a tragedy and the death of 1 million is a statistic. So you can sit here and think like, yeah, what does it mean to be an internal refugee? Or what does it mean if there are 30 attacks on Kiev with drones? But it's hard to get a feeling of that because it's abstract, right? The thing which I experience is becomes really concrete. So it's a super big roller coaster. So we went to Rivne, which is in the west of Ukraine, to the widow center where we brought goods. We spoke to people. We tried to find out like somebody starting an arts and crafts class. Could we help there? What do they need? But in the west of Ukraine, although there were some rocket attacks, the war for me, felt relatively far away or relatively abstract. To give you an example, I wanted to take a shower in the morning before we went out. It was between 6 and 7, and I heard some rumbling, and there was no power and no water. So I opened the window, and I saw this little plume of smoke. So they bombed the power plants, but it was 4 kilometers away. I barely heard it, and yeah, there was no shower, but it's sort of, so the war is there, but it's distant. It's in the background. When you go past Kiev, it totally changes. So there are less people out there on the streets. There are much less men on the streets. they are much more military people, and you see a lot of the effects of the war. So you see people with who lost their leg, or you meet people who, when you talk to them, you learn they fled from some place and they are trying to rebuild their life, but they lost everything, which is totally different from somebody who is in a country which is at war, but he is relatively stable in the West, right? Not saying that there's no hardship or thing in the West, but for me, I experienced it more in the East. In Kharkiv, there's a curfew, and there are a lot of people fleeing from the front line to Kharkiv. And one of the programs we helped was from a partner we work with. And we basically brought toys and we play and try to connect with kids. And the person facilitating that does some trauma work. Because you can imagine if you're 4 and there are bombs, and people know the word for drone if there are 4 in Ukraine. And then they need to flee. And then they are in a new situation and they notice things about their parents. And for me, this is only like a really small thing I did, but for me it felt really good because if people, the kids came into a room and then you can give them toys and say bye. But the thing we did, we played for them for 4 hours, and there was this person organizing it who has some like ways to open up conversations. And these kids were scared, but because you have time, you can draw together and they can practice their English and they can relate to a person and they know, hey, this person is here from a different country trying to help us. We are not forgotten. We are, basically we can be kids. We can play with these people because they have time and they want to make a good time with us, basically. So that's like a really small example, but something which for me felt really good to give these people like a good afternoon.
And what was the most impactful moment for you in Ukraine?
And so for me, internal refugees and also in general refugees, vluchtelingen, is something like it's really big on the news and in the minds of also Western European countries, right? And yeah, it's a theme in elections, it's a theme in Germany. And when you don't know vluchtelingen, it's sort of easy to think something of that, right? The thing which I found by far the most impactful was there's a family and they lived in Shevchenko, and they moved from there. They lived close to the border, and when the war broke out 3 years ago now, they immediately had to move and their house was bombed. So they were surprised by this, and it's a family of 5. The father is a miner, and they moved from Shevchenko to Pokrovsk. So they first rented a house, then they built a house, and they built up their life again in Pokrovsk. So these people work and they're good people and they try to do their best to renew their life after a destroying experience. Then the war came to Pokrovsk, as you know. So they had to flee again. And so they tried to rebuild their life, but they couldn't. And what I learned about the Ukrainian society, but you're much more knowledgeable there, is it's more traditional. So it's more the patriarchy in a way. So the father, the guy, had to provide for the family. That's his job, right? He had to build houses, do technical things, and provide money for food and for shelter and for safety for his family, right? And he was failing at that again, and not because of him not putting in the work, not because he is not an able person, but because these huge events make things super hard for him. And the thing I went on mission to distribute the goods, but also to open his first shelter near in Makariv, near Kiev, so far away from the front. And the shelter is free for the family. So we picked them up, and they were really quiet. There was something like, they said like, yeah, we're super thankful, but we're also hurting, right? Which I can imagine. And then we helped them put the stuff in the house, and we drank something, and then we went away. And the father, like a tough miner, he started crying. And he started crying because his sort of, he was safe now. He was not longer failing as a protector for his family. He was being helped. And it was something where this super abstract concept of the vluchtelingen, and not everybody wants to go to the Netherlands or to Germany. Maybe young people who are highly educated would, in any case, without a war.
It's really difficult. But thank you for your help. It's really important for me. And for a lot of Ukrainian people to feel this support from people, from European people, and the people helped me for the first, when I made my first step. So first time I was in Warsaw, and some volunteer, some Polish family helped me for the first time. And then I moved to Berlin, and here people helped me, and a lot of people from Ukraine, they felt this support, and it was amazing for us. It was really great thing, really great thing to feel that you are not alone with your problems. It was amazing. So thank you for you too, for your incredible mission. Yeah. And then we have to, we are at the end of our interview now. Yeah, so thank you, Tobias. Thank you so much for sharing with us your incredible insights, and for your, it was really inspiring. Yeah, and also for those who are watching our interview, thank you for your time, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe my channel BerlinBiz, and see you in the next videos.
Thank you.